Hi everyone, welcome. It's my pleasure to host you at this FSA Programme update webinar. Very happy to have you all here. I'm Joe Rushton. I'm the FSA Director at Side Platform. And this webinar is open to Side Platform members and non-members. And it looks like we've got a good turnout. So 170 or so registered. And with me today, I have Jess Hubert, our Assurance and Capability Manager, and she's going to help me out facilitating the session today and also moderating some questions at the end. So yeah, real pleasure to have you all here. First of all, just to check, Jess, everybody can see my screen and you can hear me all very clearly.
Yeah, oh good. Thanks.
Great. So first, a bit of housekeeping, and you should be seeing our antitrust caution statement. So yeah, in terms of housekeeping today, if you've got any questions, please pop it in the chat box and we'll answer it in the end. Or if it's very easy, Jess will answer it on the spot. Also letting you know that this session will be recorded, and that's for those who can't make it. If you're not comfortable with that, then now's your time to leave. Please make sure that you do take note of Side Platform's antitrust caution statement. It's on the screen now. The main purposes of this is just to remind you all not to talk about anything that's commercially sensitive, but me and Jess will be keeping an eye out for that as well. So firstly, a little bit of background. The FSA's purpose, what we set out to be is this industry framework for what sustainable agriculture is, where it exists, and how to best promote its uptake. So the system is centered around a farm level questionnaire that can be used directly in our members' value chains. It can also be used for benchmarking purposes to compare against alternative schemes and standards. And our purpose is really to drive relevant and demonstrable continuous improvement of on-farm social, environmental, and business performance through supply chain collaboration and fostering a common understanding of sustainable agriculture. So that's what we're all about. But that's about as much as I'll say today about what the FSA is and how it works. If you do want to know more about that, there's lots of information available on for free on our learning center, on our website, and also a great online training course for would-be users. But today, we're going to be focusing on the program management and delivery side of things. So for those of you that are new to Side Platform, the FSA is just one of the industry solutions owned and managed by us. Here is a full list of the members, and we're really lucky to have such an engaged and active community. And behind these logos, there are some real they represent some real leaders in the field. It's an absolute pleasure to serve this kind of committed group of companies committed to making farming more sustainable, more regenerative. It's a real honor. So in terms of kind of how the FSA is managed and run, we are governed by the FSA Steering Committee. So that's Eva, Guido, Andy, Madhu, James, and Catherine. A very knowledgeable and committed bunch of people guiding the FSA into the future and kind of making sure that the FSA is as best as it can be. And they're also supported by expert teams of members and non-members that look after the core elements of our program, so benchmarking, assurance, and outcome measurement. In terms of the format today, So we'll take a quick look at the FSA's effectiveness. We track a number of metrics to monitor our success and our performance. We'll have a look at some of the exciting new features and trends since last year and recent developments. And then I'll also talk you through the strategy and work package for 2024. I'll probably speak for about 15 minutes or so. We should have about 15 minutes for questions as well. We can go on longer if we want, but very much doubting that we'll need the full hour. So hoping to give you some time back as well at the end. So, I mean, the good news, if we look at our growth and take a benchmark since 2019, so 5 years ago, we had close to 40,000 farmers in 23 different countries. If we fast forward now to 2024, really seeing that map start to kind of fill in, we're at 380,000 farmers, which belong to FSA verified farm management groups. They're from 61 countries. And those farm management groups are growing 189 different crops. And the FSA program is benchmarked against 83 different sustainability schemes and standards that are either aligned or equivalent to the framework. So that just hopefully gives you a sense of the scale of kind of how big we're getting. Quite astonishing, really. So geographic expansion in Costa Rica, Ecuador, Honduras. The southern part of Africa is definitely starting to fill in. Our biggest uptake is now in Brazil, so that replaces France. China actually has the most number of users in total, and we get these remarkable crops which keep being added. Things like figs in Spain, finger lime as well in Spain, ginseng root in China, kumquats in Spain, pistachios in the US, tobacco in Brazil, and tulips in the Netherlands. So really great to see the progress. And the surprising thing is that all of this growth is actually organic, and it's coming through the Sci Platform network. So not a single euro has been spent on advertising. So I think that just goes to show the power and reach of the Sci Platform community. What would I kind of attribute this to? So why, despite not spending any money on advertising, why have we grown so big? And it's hard to know for certain, but I'd probably put it down to 6 key factors. So firstly, we've got this really powerful, unique selling point. So everybody that's using or has been kind of involved in the conception of the FSA got this really crystal clear idea on why it needed to exist and what it needed to do. So we just had to figure out how. So that the concept and value proposition has always been really solid, and that makes our strategy much easier to articulate. So we don't want to live in this world where every single one of our members has their own bespoke scheme or standard, or kind of working towards the same thing, but in 1,000 different ways. And kind of that's what Sci Platform are here to solve with the FSA. The second important thing is that we're highly customizable and flexible. So the FSA is really easy to adapt or localize for different countries, regions, crops, farming systems. It's kind of specific enough to be meaningful, but general enough to be used by everybody. So that kind of brings me on to my next point, is that we are kind of mass market. This isn't a niche solution. It can be used by small farmers, big farmers, wherever you are in the world. It's highly simple and accessible to people. You don't need lots of consultants. You don't need lots of skills. Anybody can use it. It's easy to understand, and we try our best to be as farmer friendly as possible. Number 4, So we have this really participatory design process through our membership. There's a massive amount of pride in the Sci Platform community about what we built together over the years. So I really do have to thank the members. It really wouldn't have been possible without them. And we have a deeply consultative and farmer-focused design process. So, that comes with pros and cons. Our delivery might always, we might be slightly rough around the edges. But that seems to matter less because you can always sharpen things over time, and we get the fundamentals right. You can't really easily replicate that. Number 5, so we don't try and reinvent things that are already out there. We have this non-competitive approach, so we don't compete. We're very purpose-driven. And that means that through our benchmarking program, we encourage our members and farmers to use the scheme that makes most sense for them and most suitable for their demographics. We know that the FSA is generic reference. So if there is something that's more locally applicable, we definitely encourage people to use those schemes and standards where they exist. And kind of beyond that, actually encourage them to grow because they're part of the change as well. Every single stakeholder, I think, can see themselves or the value that they bring through the FSA program, whether you're a farmer, user, scheme owner, regulator, even finance is coming on board now. And then finally, we have this very people-focused theory of change, and that's because we understand that what improves farm-level outcomes isn't the FSA. We're realistic and honest about that. The FSA is just a tool at the end of the day. Change happens due to leadership, and it's when the supply chain comes together, listens to their growers, then supports them where they need it. And that allows us to be very continuous improvement focused. So we're not compliance based compared to other sustainability schemes. And that allows us to be very lean and cost efficient. We don't need these robust chain of custody systems in place. And that kind of means that we can be very cost effective and nimble, because we're not supporting those unpacked claims to consumers. And then finally, I mean, these are the kind of key fundamentals about why we've grown so big, but it's really thanks to a lot of hard work behind the scenes as well. So huge thanks to my close colleagues, Joe Jess, who's on the call, and Matt as well. If we now have a look at some of the kind of the sentiment of our users. So here's a bit of a snapshot from a marketing standpoint. This data was pulled from the most recent FSA satisfaction survey that we ran at the end of last year, so November 2023. What we really were aiming to do there is kind of capture some insights about how the FSA is perceived and used, and also identify priorities for the development of the FSA going forward. And users see, when we ask them about the 3 main benefits that they associate with using the FSA, really kind of coming out clearly at the front runner, it's this external recognition and credibility, followed up by our continuous improvement focus, and the fact that we're a single industry-wide reference. And it's interesting to see how this has changed over the last 5 years. The market uptake, because of our market uptake, I would say that, back in 2019, there probably maybe people really weren't aware that the FSA was here, and so this single industry-wide reference has kind of dropped down a bit to number 3. Continuous improvement focus is still at number 2, and relationship building and collaboration has dropped down to number 5. So it's really this external recognition and credibility, which wasn't in the top 3 in 2019, is becoming the strongest driver for the FSA program and its uptake. Of course, what the FSA is really to do, and it speaks to that continuous improvement focus that we've got as well, is to drive the uptake of improved farming outcomes. And I'm kind of really proud and happy to see this statistic. It means that only 12% of people seem to be using the FSA to verify existing performance that didn't drive a change in farmer outcomes on the ground. So for the most part, definitely that means the FSA is doing kind of what it sets out to do on the tin. And then finally, if we wrapping up on the effectiveness of our program and our user demographics, we wanted, given the surge in interest in region ag, we really wanted to gauge directly how this was being perceived from an FSA user's perspective. So we asked them, how urgent is it for the FSA to be able to support region ag claims? And certainly this statistic contributed to the 2024 strategy, which I'll go into later. But 87% of people saying that it's very urgent or somewhat urgent that the FSA can respond to this trend. Okay, so if we have a look at some of the recent developments of the FSA, we can, I'll just explain kind of what we're building from and the successes of 2023 before I then go into the 2024 strategy. It was a fairly big year in our evolution. So if we first look at some successes, we launched our online training course in the FSA Academy. That's really important because previously we were giving training in person and it was static content or static content as well. This allows for a kind of self-paced online training course supported by the Adobe Learning Management platform that will kind of really help us to build capacity, knowledge, skill sets amongst our FSA user base. That's massively important because the results you get out of using the system like FSA depend on the skills and competencies of the user. So with that, we're hopefully improving outcomes as well. We wrapped up the re-benchmarking process of schemes from FSA 2.1 to 3.0, a massive undertaking. We updated our outcome measurement handbook. So we've expanded the number of chapters from carbon, moving into soil, water, and biodiversity as well. We launched our Growing an FSA Growing a Better Planet Award. We announced our first winner at our in-person community practice event in Rome last year. A really inspiring story. And if you are, if you think that you've got a, really outstanding, you've made an outstanding difference or achievement with the FSA, registrations are still open for 2024 if you'd like to apply. So I encourage you to do that. If we look at some of the trends, really exciting to see that the growing interest from banks. They're using the FSA for due diligence in their lending activities. So if they're lending to agricultural projects or agricultural development projects, they're looking to use something like the FSA to provide that level of assurance that the project will be managed well. And they're putting sustainability at their heart, driven largely in part by regulatory changes, the Sustainable Finance Reporting Directive from the EU. It's a really positive trend, and we're growing that, and that means that we're growing the user base from food companies, which is our traditional market, also to financial institutions as well. So very pleased to be that, and we've been in contact with some of the leading lenders. So we're also growing our revenues that we generate from license fees and for verification bodies, and also benchmarked third-party schemes. That's really important because it reduces our reliance on side platform membership fees. We're getting more and more mentions in news and in the press. Yeah, we continue to increase kind of in growth organically outside of the side platform network. So word is getting out. We don't have any horticultural members in our membership, but increasingly we've been getting interest from there. Also tobacco companies as well. You can't be a side platform member if you're a tobacco company, but you can still use the FSA for that crop. We move now into our statement of work for 2024. The strategy this year consists of three main buckets. So firstly, we've got that region ag integration, so responding to that member need. Secondly, we are focusing on outcome measurement. And then finally, the third pillar of our strategy is the EU Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. First of all, on the region ag integration, what do we mean there? Well, Side Platform has a Regenerating Together program as one of its industry solutions. They have developed a fantastic new framework that was launched in September last year, which is trying to kind of harmonize a definition of what regenerative agriculture is. Not an easy task. A lot of opinions and voices out there, but through an extensive consultation together with our membership and external partners as well, we're really pleased with the framework that we've got. But what's the FSA's role here, and how do we integrate, and how do we respond to our users' needs? So we've been developing operating systems to help scale and run the FSA for the last decade or so. And so what we want to do, first of all, is take that standalone Regenerating Together framework that Side Platform have developed, apply the FSA's fantastic operating systems to it, and help it reach scale and really leapfrog its development. So we're talking about things here like our verification body approval program, our benchmarking program, our IT systems, our training systems as well. So that's for users that just want to make region ag claims. We'll be then building an optional FSA module that can be bolted onto the FSA for existing users. So we understand that a lot of growth in a lot of the use cases for the region ag framework will be on top of existing sustainability schemes. So, so for those really wanting to take things to the next level in outcome measurement. So we're supporting and making things as streamlined as possible and giving FSA users a sense of continuity. And then finally, we need to make a few tweaks and upgrades to the FSA to make sure that it can kind of better accommodate the needs of the Regenerating Together framework. So that's what we're really focusing on this year in our for our integration agenda. Supporting that is this focus on outcome measurement. So the Regenerating Together framework is outcomes based. It's a kind of fundamental principle of the definition of how Side Platform have coined it. And this year we are going to be upgrading the outcome measurement handbook again. So it'll be the third iteration. This time we're going to give it much more focus towards Side Platform's Regenerating Together program, really going into those 10 metrics that we've defined and explaining to people how to best monitor them over time and the tools that are available to do that. Things like the Cool Farm tool and Field to Market and many others, CISC as well. And then we'll be also a very complex area. I don't think anybody's fully got this right yet, is explaining to people simply and pragmatically and cost effectively how to manage, how to kind of monitor change over time in farms or farm management groups using kind of practical research methods or examples that are statistically robust, but then are adaptable to real world supply chains with farmers coming in and out and crop rotations changing and supply chain shifting. So How do we do that in a way that makes sense and give credibility well, we're able to kind of punctuate all of the good work that we're doing about how farming is improving and how farms are improving with quantitative data points. So that's outcome measurement. And then finally, probably you're all aware of the new regulation coming out of the EU. We've decided to focus on the EU CSDDD, and that's because we think that it's the place where the FSA is best positioned to respond. It's the place where our system is most adapted, well, it's actually really well adapted to take the regulations and turn them into a practical on-farm solution. So what we're going to do there is develop a farm level module. It will be optional, so it's not mandatory for all FSA users, and that can be used for crops and regions where there could be EU CSDDD related exposure. So it just kind of increases the level of ambition where there are risks associated with the EU CSDDD, and that will really put, if we deliver these three things, the region ag integration, the outcome measurement side of things in the EU CSDDD, not only are we solving these really important and material issues for the industry, we are putting the FSA in the absolute best position to continue to grow. I think it could really, once we get to the end of this year, I think it could really kind of catapult the growth and the visibility of our system. So watch this space. If we then, this is my final slide, and then we can get into some questions. If we have a look at how that plays out in a bit of a timeline for the rest of the year. So in Q1 this year, we hired ProForest to conduct a EU CSDDD scoping project. We finalized that, so we're really confident that we spent a lot of time in the design room on scoping and making sure that the module is going to be as good as it can be. And then for the rest of the year, we're focusing on delivering it. We launched an outcome measurement task force, a collective group of subject matter experts throughout the membership and also externally, to kind of shepherd in that second part of the strategy that I mentioned. And then finally, we kicked off what we call the Regen Ready project, which summarizes the three items in the Regen Ag strategy. Earlier this month, I think, we launched a new resource that's designed specifically, that specifically speaks to farmers about what the FSA is and how and why they should engage in it. It's a really fantastic new guide, rich with case studies. Do go and check that out. It's publicly available for members and non-members. It's free on the Side Platform website. And we also launched a letter of attestation portal for verification bodies. So previously we were using a global gap system. We brought that system now in-house so that we have much more control over the types of information that we can collect from verification bodies. It's also a much better experience for those users as well, we feel. It should be a much simpler process now to go through. It's a really nice, lean application. Next quarter, so we'll be piloting what we call the endorsed advisor network. What we've seen is there's this kind of marketplace for FSA consultancy that's sprung up, and what we'd really like to do is bring in some quality control and help regulate that market a bit. So Side Platform are going to be advertising those consultants that have gone through our FSA training, and kind of giving them a preferred status within our system. And then finally, the benchmarking workstream, they are looking to update our approach to how and when regulations can be used to top up benchmarks. So if you've got global gap in the Netherlands, for example, the Netherlands is a low risk country. you can use the regulation as a foundation and then top up the result with the scheme. That's a part of our benchmarking protocol, and we've made it a bit more robust, and we've moved suppliers from maple crops to a more competitive supplier. And then by the end of the year, users will have the module that I talked about for the EU CS-DDD. They'll have a new version of the outcome measurement handbook, much more rich and detailed information about how to track change over time and the best way to do that. And we will also have an FSA Region Ag bolt-on for our users as well. And that just about brings me to the end of the talk. So thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it. Hopefully we've started to see some questions coming through in the chat. If not, pop them in. We can also unmute you if you raise your hand. At this point, I'll just hand over to Jess, and we can maybe take a moment to for questions and comments to come in.
Thanks, Joe. There is one question on the Regen Ag work. So maybe can you give us a little bit more about how the Regen Ag prototype work and the FSA are planning to align? And then in the future, will it become one assessment, or do we plan on keeping it as a module?
Thanks for the question. Who did that come from?
It says anonymous.
Anonymous, okay. Well, it's a good question. You don't need to feel shy about it. I've got some extra slides on this because I thought that might come up. So this is just the strategy that the 2024 strategy that I spoke to earlier. So this is the three pillars for it. So a standalone regenerating together tool powered by our operating systems, an optional module for FSA users, and then upgrading our system so that we can deliver the first two things. Here's what we mean by the FSA's operating systems. So this is our Regen Together framework. And now we're applying our operating systems to that, to our new framework. In terms of how that looks from a user's perspective, here it is on the slide. So we're going to have an aligned approach to how you assess priorities or the contextualization process. Ultimately, with both frameworks, the Regen Ag framework and the FSA framework, it's about coming up with a really good continuous improvement plan that the farmers support and that is well resourced and can drive the change that we want to see. So that's really the end result. That involves a level of contextualization of either tool, the Regen Ag framework or the FSA. So we want to align on how that process happens. Then there'll be a choice between just using the Regenerating Together framework on its own, and you get a Regen Ag claim. Using the FSA with the Regen Ag bolt-on to remove the overlap where that exists, and you can make both. Or just use the FSA indeed on its own. And then we're going to have an aligned approach to how we conduct our continuous improvement planning and monitor impacts over time. This topic was actually the focus of a specific webinar that myself and my colleague Dom delivered a couple of months ago, and that is also on the Side Platforms website. So if you would like much more information on the Regen Ag side of things, really encourage you to check that out. Me and Dom talk for about 45 minutes on timelines and really get into the details of things. But for the time being, we're not envisaging kind of merging the two into kind of one solution. And I think that probably speaks back to, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible. We could consider that. But I think that's when it comes back to what made the FSA program such a success, is giving users that flexibility. So we understand that not everybody really wants to focus on Regen Ag. We understand that there's some FSA users that don't want to measure or are not ready to measure outcomes. So it's really about giving people the tools and the references and the frameworks to drive change in the way that they best see fit. They know that, or they have a better picture of how to do that, much better picture of how to do that than us in the Secretariat that are kind of building the system. So not on my radar, certainly for 2024 to do that.
Thanks, Joe. Another question on the regen work. So will it enable companies to make on-pack claims, or will it be the same as the FSA with secondary marketing material claims, for example, on a website?
Yeah. So the FSA, we don't allow on-pack claims in the FSA, and that's to allow the system to kind of maintain its continuous improvement focus, its business-to-business nature, facilitating dialogue throughout the supply chain. Lots of positives to that. And the Regen Ag framework will be taking the same approach for the time being. We have, in the FSA, we have what we recommend is that if you do want to make on-pack claims, go with, for example, a Rainforest Alliance, a Fair Trade. They already have that brand recognition, that customer recognition. If your marketing team want to pay for it, and you want that level of assurance, maybe, for example, it's a very high-risk commodity, chocolate, tea, cocoa, it's where most of the product is the raw material in which you'd use a sustainability scheme. Then go with a program like that, an FSA benchmark scheme, to get you that consumer recognition.
Thanks, Joe. A question from Mario is, please can you confirm when the CSDDD add-on will be available? And is there a bit more you could tell us on the gaps between CSDDD and 3.0?
Yeah, so we aim to launch by the end of the year. Matteo, thanks for your question. So that will be available to our users kind of via all three implementation routes. And in terms of the gaps, we're at the early stages. So we've written a first draft. We've sent it to our benchmarking work stream. They are looking at how the questionnaire should be changed or upgraded, looking at the question levels, the wordings of the FSA questions. I can't really easily explain the gaps. The FSA had good coverage, but there was roughly about 30 regulatory points, or we feel that we might need to take the number of questions from 110, I think, is in the existing FSA questionnaire, and top those up with an additional 30 questions. So we are increasing the length of it, but it's just kind of unfortunately the nature of the beast. Those 30 questions cover a range of different things, but I would say predominantly, environmental, social, farming topics. I would say probably a 50-50 split between environmental and social. But after the benchmarking workstream have commented, we're going to be following as closely as possible the consultation process that we use for 3.0. So we're aligned to ICIL's consultation processes. There'll be a kind of a public consultation window where everybody is invited to kind of scrutinize and comment that. We might also run some focus groups and some targeted consultations as well. So there'll be absolutely, it will also be piloted on farm to make sure that it works for farmers too. So there's absolutely an opportunity to help form the development of that. So yeah, please stay in contact and reach out if you'd like to be a part of that consultation process, and we'll keep that in mind for when we get to that stage.
Thanks, Joe. I'm not seeing any more questions coming through, but if you do have any, please feel free to speak up. I don't see any more coming through on the chat, but maybe Joe, you can explain a little bit more about how people can get involved in other work that we're doing as well. And yeah, the areas that people can get involved if they are interested or would like to.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for your attention and questions. If you do want to, if you've got any questions about the FSA program, side platform, don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us here in the Secretariat. We're happy to help. You can get in contact with info@sideplatform.org for side platform questions, or we have a help desk, FSA at sideplatform.org, and we'd be kind of more than happy to help. So thanks so much for listening, and our General Assembly is next week in Durban. We're all very much looking forward to it, and hope to see many of you there if you from the membership side.
Sorry,
So,
Joe. One last
okay.
one last question's coming through. Oh, actually, I see there's two. So the one is it possible to contact us directly, of course, and we are happy to set up some time to talk to you over a Teams chat or a Teams call. And then Catherine has asked, what will the endorsed advisor network be and how will it work?
Okay, that will be a new page on the side platform website. It's open to, or we have some prerequisite criteria, so the types of people that would be eligible to apply for it. But to be on the database or the network, it's kind of like a yellow pages. Those consultants will have to gone through FSA training. We're not looking to generate any revenue from it. All we want to do is give a preferred status to those consultants that have gone through our training, and that's so we can standardize things and provide a level of quality control for FSA users when it comes to consultancy services.
Thank you. And yeah, you'll also be able to search specific regions, and it'll put you in contact with the right people who have training. Great. Well, I don't see any more questions coming through. If you do have any questions, please send them through to our help desk. That is fsa@sideplatform.org. And yeah, I think have a lovely day.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks so much, Jess. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and we'll catch up soon. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.